Welcome to Next Up with NextGen, the podcast bringing you insights and perspectives from the next generation of leaders in the American Council of the Blind. Brought to you by ACB Next Generation.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Next Up with NextGen. My name is Greg Lindberg, and I'm the Publications Committee Chair of ACB Next Generation. So here on this episode, we are speaking about the 2026 ACB DC Leadership Conference. And this was held back at the beginning of March 2026. And so we have two members of NextGen joining us here on this episode who actually attended the conference in person. So we definitely have plenty to get into just about their whole experiences and kind of the highlights and their big takeaways from this event. So first, I would like to introduce Raheel Ahmed. Raheel, welcome. If you just want to kind of introduce yourself, tell us about your background.
Yeah, I am Raheel Ahmed. Last year was my first time, but I didn't hear about NextGen until some friends told me about it for a few years, and then until I joined this past summer in Dallas by filling out that online application. But this was my good experience this year at DC.
Nice. I understand you're from Albany, New York, right?
I am
Nice.
originally born in Chicago, in Waukegan, Illinois, but I'm from I grew up here in Albany, New York.
Gotcha. And as far as your visual impairment, what's your condition?
My condition is retinopathy of prematurity, and I also have epilepsy and mild form of cerebral palsy as well.
All right. And let's now hear from Mo Carpenter, treasurer of NextGen. Mo, welcome.
Hi there. Yes, I am Mo Carpenter, otherwise known as Monica Carpenter. I can't hide that anymore because now too many people know me online and in person, and now it's getting a little confusing on the Mo versus Monica. But here in that you'll see me mostly online, it's usually Mo, and I am the ACB Next Generation current treasurer. Nowhere as good as a treasurer as Maria, but definitely learning a lot there. And then I am part of ICUB, which is Iowa Council of the United Blind. And there I am the Des Moines chapter treasurer. And I just got that this past year, or I just started that in January, taking a little bit of what I've learned from NextGen. And yeah, I got to go to DC in person as part of 8 of us that were part of the ICUB chapter or the ICUB affiliate that went in person this year. And I also, as our host here, has LCA, and that's Leber congenital amaurosis. And so I've grown up always legally blind, but have less vision now than I did as a child. And I live in West Des Moines, Iowa, which is right on the west side of Des Moines. So I'm basically in the Des Moines metro, but I kind of on the very west edge of West Des Moines and Waukee.
Right. Gotcha. Nice. Appreciate that. All right. So in terms of the DC Leadership Conference, so there were several activities as usual, for this conference. There was a museum tour on Friday, and then several events over the weekend. I know there was the board meeting, president's meeting. Then I believe it was Monday, the legislative seminar. And then Tuesday was kind of the traditional day for some folks to go to Capitol Hill to actually advocate in front of, Congress members and their assistants. So I thought we could just kind of go through, chronologically, kind of the whole experience here. So Raheel, I know you did attend the museum tour on Friday. If you want to tell us about that, just talk about the museum in general and your experience.
At the museum, I was walking around and I got to feel some items and also listen to what the guide was saying about there was like a second floor. There was also the huge elevator that we rode up, and then in the middle of the tour. I couldn't do all of it because my left foot was hurting. Not a good idea for new people to break in their shoes while they're traveling. So so I had to go back and sit down for a little bit.
Eek, doesn't sound fun. Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
And I should clarify, is it the African American History
Yes,
Museum in DC?
yes, yes.
Yo, nice. So yeah, if you just want to talk a little more about kind of some of the exhibits, some of the highlights, things that you got to see there.
Well, the only exhibit that I remember seeing was the huge history elevator that we rode. We also felt the can't remember what the stuff were that was there to touch around and stuff. And we also learned about the Africans and slaves and different things.
And was it a
Hmm.
pretty big group that was there from ACB? Would
Yeah,
you
there
say?
was like 30 or 40 of us, I think.
Oh wow, very neat.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then it sounds like it was pretty inclusive and accessible as far as some tactile things and whatnot.
Yeah. And they also have Ira there, but I never used Ira when I was there. But yeah. As soon as I got to the hotel, I left again. No time for resting or taking
No
off my
doubt.
shoes and kicking back.
No doubt that goes for the conference and, DC leadership as well as the convention and conference. So
Right.
can definitely relate.
Mm-hmm.
So let's turn it over now to Mo. So I know your Friday was a little bit different, Mo. You actually got to go on the hill, if I understand, right?
Yeah, so our chronological order is going to be a little out of order for me because our Friday morning was the bulk of our hill visits. We visited with two different people individually in two different groups. And then we met for our third person in person. And then we went off to the International Spy Museum with our group. It was kind of more of a team building experience. So that was kind of why we did it a little different than a lot of the other affiliates. It wasn't that we didn't want to be a part of ACB. It was more because we needed that time to focus together and to kind of team build together. And so we went to the International Spy Museum, and that was a fabulous tour. It does cost money for the tour versus a lot of the other museums in the DC area, but it was a phenomenal guided I believe the gentleman's name was Mark. Now we're getting too far away, and I can't remember all the details. But he was phenomenal. He had great stories to tell. He was very up to let's go where you want to go, and very interactive, and made sure to point out things that we could touch. And there is so much to touch in that museum. I was just impressed with all the accessibility that's been put in mind. Our main person that kind of gave us a list of different museums that we could choose from. She hadn't actually been to this museum since it moved to its newest location, and that was like 8 or some years ago. So it had been a while since she had been to it. And she thought it was still the smaller museum that it used to be, which was very much focused on like fictional spies. And they've updated it. And now that fictional spy section, we actually never made it to that section of the museum because we just spent so much time in the other parts. And it was so fascinating to hear about different spies and kind of where the US spies started and versus the international spies. And there was just so much going on that we didn't actually make it to the thing I wanted to learn more about Get Smart and Maxwell Smart. But we didn't make it to that part. So I definitely need to go back to that museum. But one of the first things that he showed us was this interactive portrait that had different sensors that you could touch on it. And when you touch that, it actually changed the portrait and it would tell you something different about that picture. And that particular piece of the museum exhibit, I guess you would call it, had actual braille on the thing itself. And so there was so much accessibility built in mind. There were QR codes all over the museum. There were lots of 3D printed things. You even got to, if you wanted to touch a lipstick gun, it was just a 3D printed model of one, but lots of that, lots of different spy or code breaking things that were actual tactile that you could go and touch or experiment with. There was one that used belts. And so you could actually kind of feel the letters imprinted into the belts that if you did it wrapped it the right way around something would spell something out, and that was kind of their codes. So there was lots of different things, lots of history elements built in. So it was a really fabulous tour that we got to go on. And like Raheel, one of the most memorable things I think was the elevator when we started, because when they take school groups up and things, they actually start them off as like a junior spy, and so they're getting their mission. And so you get into the elevator, and it's like you've entered a amusement park ride, and it's got flashing on the ceiling and speaking through the elevator, and it was really fun. And Greg, remind me, because I have a little clip that I think I can send you for that we can maybe post with the blog post on this.
Oh, cool. That would be awesome. Yeah.
Is that like a front where you towards the front of the elevator?
It was the lights and things were all in the ceiling, I believe, because that's where I could see it. I don't think it really did anything anywhere else, but it was interesting. It was very entertaining.
Yeah, who knew elevators would be your highlights here? That's very interesting. All right, so let's move on to Saturday and Sunday, the weekend events. So in terms of the board meeting on Saturday, anything stand out to you guys from that?
So my fun part about this whole trip was I am an avid crafter. I think if you've met me in person, you've noticed that I have knitting on me, if not in hand. And I actually left my knitting bag on the plane seat as I was getting up out of the plane. Um, so my board meeting experience, I learned how really ADHD I tend to be because I was trying to focus on the board meeting while sitting still with nothing in my hands. And I was struggling a little bit. I did eventually go and get my mantis and took some notes that way so that I could actually focus more on what was being said during the meeting. We actually broke off from the main group when they broke for lunch. So I don't know exactly what happened after that, but we were there for the first half of the day for the board meeting. And I don't know if there was anything truly remarkable that stood out. I did enjoy that the board members did seem to listen to each other and give each other space, which was a nice thing to see.
For me, at the board meeting, there was nothing to really like stand out, but I did have breakfast with a friend in the morning. And then I went to the board meeting a little bit late. They didn't bring up convention at all to talk about that, but they were talking about other things, financial stuff, accessibility, and things. So that's what it was.
Yeah, I did personally got to listen in on some of the board meeting on that Saturday, and like you were saying, Raheel, just all the things we're doing in terms of like accessibility with different, partners ACB has, and it really is amazing
The
how
audio description thing, yeah.
oh yeah, as far as that, and then I know with Meta, obviously, and some of the challenges we've had, with Facebook as blind users recently. It sounds like hopefully we're, getting in front of them,
Hmm.
having ACB staff meet with them, pretty often and regularly. It sounds like them and other companies is encouraging to hear. So let's move on to the president's meeting on Sunday. Anything you guys want to mention on
Greg, I
that?
think we missed something. And
Ooh,
that was the meet and greet. Was that Friday night, Raheel? Did you get to go to that?
I did go to that, yeah, Saturday night. It was I
I was
went to
trying
the
to remember
First
if it was
Timers
Friday or
Club.
Saturday night.
I went to the First Timers Club meeting where Claire talked about stuff with the hill and everything. And then I went to the meet and greet on Saturday night.
I was
Hmm.
also able to attend the meet and greet, and that was a nice thing because we actually didn't realize that they only were going to have the registration table up like that one night. And so we had to quick scramble and get all of our people registered and pick up their things for them because it was just me and one of the other, my roommate, that actually went down to that particular event. But it was really nice this year because they were also offering $50 Uber vouchers for our
Yes.
stays there. And so I was able to connect with Colby to get that all set up during the meet and greet party.
nice. So was that a new thing this year, the meet and greet?
No, I mean, yes, it was.
I was
It
gonna
was.
say I'm pretty sure I've only been once before in 2023. That was when we were in a different hotel, and I don't remember us doing something quite to that level.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely glad they had something like that, just in terms of networking and getting to meet new folks. And I think that's really important. So then, as far as the president's meeting on Sunday, anything you guys want to mention on that?
Um, Sunday, morning, there was like breakout sessions and things. There was a sponsor presentation. And Uber, I didn't know this one, but under the Uber settings and accessibility, you could say that you are blind. Check the box that says I am blind. And then um, we also went that night to the Indian restaurant. But boy, it was a disaster because there were so many people going to each restaurants, and it was a hot mess. Uber kept canceling on some people because they didn't want to wait for other cars to leave and things. I don't know if you
Hmm.
want to, Mo, do you want to touch on that? What was?
So I'm sorry your experience was that way. My dine around experience went a lot better. Uh,
Mhm.
I don't know if we had either of our rides cancel. I know there was a little bit of a plug up driving out of the loading area, but
Mhm.
we were able to get to our destination. And that, I mean, other than trying to find your group in the lobby, um, maybe if in future years that ACB could kind of think of a few different locations in that main area that people could meet up, have one group meet by the restaurant, another group meet by the ballroom, another group meet by the front desk, something to that effect. So we're not all scrambling in the same 10
Mhm.
feet of each other. Might be a little more
Yeah.
helpful.
And then
Um,
Rick Morin had to like rebook it again and all this other stuff. And then when we
yeah, and
got
that
there
part you
late,
can't really help
he
with
decided to like
the
pay for
cancellations.
the five of us for some reason, which I wasn't expecting.
But for my president's meeting, part of the experience. So my Saturday, when we left at lunchtime, we went over to the Hard Rock, and then we did some walking downtown in DC. And then I convinced one of the other members of my group to go to a local yarn shop with me so that I could replace my missing items. So Sunday went much better for me because I was again able to focus in the meeting because I had my hands busy doing something that was at least entertaining for myself. And we had a fabulous gentleman who I actually met before the breakout started. He sat down at my table. Oh no, I'm not going to remember names. Um, James something was one of our speakers, and he just that was one of those standout speeches
He
I
was a
think
keynote
from
speaker, right?
yeah for DC leadership this year. I'm going to go back and listen to his little speech again. He was at one point a para athlete, and so I don't know. It was just he really resonated with the room. You could just tell, and I don't know if I've been to a lot of different speeches that have been done in ACB that have quite hit home as good as his did.
Hmm.
So that was kind of my standout experience from the president's meeting. And again, once again, having my knitting in hand so that I wasn't going crazy. But I did very much enjoy our breakouts. Raheel, were you in my breakout room? I think you were.
I believe so, yes, in the morning.
Yeah, with Neryl.
Yes.
Yeah, so we were all in the same breakout room, which I thought was kind of entertaining on how they seem to split up the breakouts. And because there was a big group of the Iowa people that were in one room, and then like two other people in one room and two other people in another room. So I thought it was kind of weird that so many of us were focused in one group.
Yeah, I just don't know what to do because like nobody from the New York affiliate goes to DC Leadership Seminar, and I'm the only one
Well,
from
that's
there.
fine. It's
But
good to
it's
have
like
your representation there.
I just
Um,
don't want to like go to the breakout sessions because I don't know what what it is and what to do and all that, you know?
so this year, the breakout session isn't something, I mean, that particular one is more for their strategic planning.
Mm,
Um, so it was more, what is ACB doing? What are they doing right? What needs to be improved on? And they will be doing more of that here as we go in the future. There will be Zoom only events that people that can't attend these in person, but this was kind of their first real stab to get a group of the people all
hmm.
together. I really enjoyed it because we were all just in our little groups. We were still able to just get so much brainstorming just within our groups done where we shared, well, our affiliate is doing this and this affiliate's doing that, and this is how we think on a national level we could come together. And it was great to see all of that come together that way that I haven't seen quite in the past. So when I went in 2023, they had a couple different breakout sessions, but they were more based on everyone get in a room and only two or three people actually get to talk by the time the
Right.
presentation's done. And this was really just here's a question, everyone in the room get a chance to answer this question, and then we'll move on, which I
Right.
think was a way better way to actually get us to actually learn and talk to each other
Yes.
than some of the stuff that I've seen ACB do in the past.
Yep.
After the president's was the dine out, and my particular state people didn't sign up to do the dine around, and the person that was supposed to go with me from my group decided that she was just going to stay in because she had enough other food to eat up in the room. And so I was kind of on my own, but I turned out to be in a dine around group with Scott Thornhill and David Trott and Rhonda Trott and Paul Edwards. I'm like, these are all great people that I've met before. And I was just so happy and so pleased to get to be like in a small group with that kind of level
Where did
of
you go?
ACB. We went to the Mexican restaurant. I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember what it was called, but it was fabulous. And I even got to take some churros back to the room with me. And I had a fancy little drink that had its own little umbrella in it.
Ooh,
Mm.
yeah.
And oh, it was tasty. It was good stuff.
Oh,
And I
okay.
really enjoyed that experience. And the night before my state, actually, we met with our affiliate liaison, who is Kenneth Semi and Senior, who is also ACB Next Gen's affiliate. So I get double affiliate privilege with Kenneth. But
Mm-hmm.
we got to have dinner with him at an Italian restaurant. And that was a really great experience, too, that, we got to sit with him and have that experience. And then I found out that they were going to be doing a breakfast for those that have been involved with the Inspire program, or for those that were involved in the first edition of the Inspire program, which was MAPS, which was the one that I was part of. So I got to go down to that breakfast with Kenneth and Donna. Donna Clark and Donna Brown were both down there. Artis Bazin was down there. Um, Ron Brooks. There's just so many people that I've met through my few years with ACB that were
Mm.
involved in that small little space, and a couple people that I hadn't met before. A gentleman named Conrad, and it was just fun to get to meet a couple new faces with all these old faces that I feel like I'm continuing to build and network with.
Nice. Wow. Definitely a lot of good memories, right?
Absolutely.
Very cool. All right, so then next we can talk about the legislative seminar. And I did want to just briefly mention the three imperatives that ACB is focused on this year. So we have the Medical Devices Non-Visual Accessibility Act, the Websites and Software Applications Accessibility Act, and the Communications, Video, and Technology Accessibility Act. So kind of a mouthful, but those are the three kind of areas.
CVTA, that was mine.
That's right. Yeah.
We broke
Um,
up. We had everybody kind of focused on one thing, so we had a easier time remembering just details for one thing versus having to do all three.
that's a good way to do it. Yeah, stay organized. So in terms of that legislative seminar, any highlights, any big takeaways for you guys?
So the only takeaway I got was the Websites and Mobile Application Accessibility Act. Um, I was able to present that to my congressman very well, and with the medical devices too, and the Video Technology Accessibility Act one too. But I learned a lot at the legislative seminar how to do it and what not to do and things. So and there was a lot of sponsors.
Nice. So definitely some practical strategies. Did you guys do like any kind of role playing or
No,
for that?
there was
Okay.
no role play this year.
Gotcha. I know at convention and some other times they have done that, but it sounds like it was though pretty impactful and you did learn quite a bit just in terms of how to
Yeah.
advocate and how to present things and present yourself.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Nice. And Mo, how about you?
So my day was kind of split between going to the leadership conference and then meeting with our last senator representative, senator aide, because they were unable to meet with us on Friday. And so I missed a lot of them going over the actual details of the different imperatives that we have for this year. Another thing that I do plan to go listen to Claire's wonderful podcast on. um, but whoever is listening to this and doesn't know, ACB does podcast a lot of this information, and so you can find it on your podcast player of choice. And that's a great way to go back, review some of this information that you might have missed or didn't quite get to hear because you weren't part of the convention or conference this particular year. And so I do plan to go back and kind of fill in some of those gaps because I missed some of the autonomous vehicle presentation.
Yes.
I caught like the tail end of that conversation. I'm like, oh, this is such a great conversation. I want to hear more. But we had to go to the Hill right in the middle of that day because we actually were leaving at the end of that day. And so
You you were leaving on Monday, like why
in
not
the
like
evening,
Tuesday?
because we were done with our visits by then.
Oh
And
wow.
so, yeah, so I got around. There's definitely stuff I want to go back and listen to and get kind of a brush up on because I didn't quite get all the information that I would have liked to. A lot of the stuff they did again on Monday was a lot more of the ACB building side. There was some stuff with Cindy and going through how affiliates can assess themselves and kind of look for ways that they could reach out to national to kind of help them out. That was towards the latter part of the day. But again, I was there for the very beginning, I was there for the end, and I kind of missed that stuff in the middle. um, but I still got my lunch. So that was a good thing.
Gotta have that energy. Yep.
Yeah, I gotta keep fueled.
For sure. Yep. So why don't we dive a little deeper into the Hill, walking the halls of Capitol Hill and just your overall experiences. I guess we could start with Raheel on that.
So on Tuesday I went to the Hill. I was at the not the Dirksen Senate office building. I was at Longworth because I needed to go see my representative who was in Rayburn office building, and I had a volunteer help me get there. And so I had a meeting with his assistant at 9:30, and then I had one more of his assistant at 10:30. So he wasn't really part of some reason he didn't want to like he wasn't supportive or whatever happened. I don't know what it was, but I met with them, and then after that I took an Uber to the Dirksen Senate office building, and then I had lunch, and then at 1:30 I met with my senator in the Hart building, and and both of my meetings, one at 1:30 and one at 4:30, was still in the same building, but it was on a different floor. But I had a volunteer go with me at 1:30, but then at 4:30, one of the ACB staff, Hannah had to help me get there, and that was good.
Gotcha.
So,
And wow, you got all the buildings, everything memorized. I know it's a big complex.
I was gonna say I
Get
don't
on you.
remember the building names that good. You say them,
yes.
and I'm like, oh yeah, we were there.
hmm Did you ever go to the Hart building,
I did
is
get to go
Hart
to the Hart
only,
building.
or is Hart only for New York senators and stuff?
No, it's they can choose which building they're in.
hmm
I think two of the buildings are the Senate and two are the representatives.
Representative
Uh,
is like Rayburn, I think.
I think they can be in a couple different buildings, but
Mm,
yeah, I went to I think at least three different buildings this year.
okay. Did you get to ride on the tram?
I was going to mention that. So if you didn't know, there is a Walt Disney theme ride in our capital.
I did not know that.
So the tram that you can ride if you're lucky enough, and we got to ride this because we actually had an aide take us, not the aide, one of their interns come and escort us from one of my senator's offices when we were moving over. We were going down to the cafeteria and then we were going to go to our representative's office, and it was the representative for everyone who was there. And so
hmm
we all met to go do that particular meeting, but we all met up to get lunch first. And I will tell you, it might not be the world's best food, but I will say the cafeteria food in DC, I don't remember which buildings those are in, but whichever building we were in, that was some of the cheapest food I think I've gotten in DC.
Oh wow.
So I
Yeah,
highly encourage
wow,
you
you're
to
making me
check
hungry,
that
Mo.
out.
You're making me hungry. But
I
anyway,
know it's all about the food, Raheel.
I know. But going forward though, like, how could I ask for one of the interns if I'm already getting a volunteer to
Well,
help me
that was
out
going to
get
be,
to?
that was something kind of new to me. And Claire did mention this, that they have interns that are happy because they're just looking for something to do. And we didn't actually utilize that at all in 2023. And I was kind of the lead in 2023 for my group. There was only four of us. And I was the first time I'd ever gone there. And so I kind of didn't know what I was doing at all. And there was very few people going up to the hill that particular year just because it was still kind of getting over COVID and those kinds of things. Um, but this year, I was not the lead. So the pressure was off. I just got to enjoy my time. I got to talk with the people. And like I said, we were in our one senator's office and we were waiting for our aide able to meet with us, and the receptionist was like, would you like me to get you an intern to take you over to this other spot? And we're like, sure. And so as soon as our meeting was over, they had the intern come up and actually escort us over to that other area, which is who showed us how to get on the tram, and we were able to ride that Disney ride with air quotation marks at the Capitol.
Mhm.
So that was
Yeah,
Who knew?
really fun. But
I
I
had a
would say
volunteer, but
I would say one of the highlights of our particular experience was we were meeting with the representative aide for the district that we're all part of, that one representative's district. And then we got photobombed by that representative. So we didn't actually meet with him, but he came out, took a picture with us at the very end, which was just really fun. And he even gave big props and a compliment to our person who was organizing all of this. And so just to have somebody acknowledge the effort that we were doing to that level was really nice to see and hear. The one thing that we did learn at Ernst's office is that Senator Ernst, who will be actually not renewing her senatorship, I don't remember what we would call it. She's not rerunning this next election cycle. So this is our last probably opportunity to meet with her aide, but she has signed on to the tax credit particular legislation that I know NFB has been a part of. And so I'm hoping that with continued pressure, maybe we can get her to kind of sign on to maybe one of these other bills that we're also working on, because she's obviously paying a little attention and seeing that it is benefiting us in the blind community. And of course, if we can work together, because I know NFB did still work with us on some of these and went in a different direction for a couple of their other things. But it would be nice to see how we can actually work together to get some of this pushed through.
One thing is, if I didn't want volunteers at the cafeteria and stuff to help me, like, could I have the intern at the bring me from the cafeteria to the office and
So
stuff?
I know that ACB had people on Tuesday there in the cafeteria. There
Yeah, they
weren't
did.
people there on Friday. Although I did hear from another affiliate, or maybe it was Claire. I'm trying to remember, or maybe Colby. Somebody told me, and I don't remember who it was now, that a lot or a few affiliates have now moved to doing like we did and did a Friday versus a Tuesday thing, just because it kind of the idea behind ours was that it would free up our attention span to be really in the moment for Saturday, Sunday, Monday, because we didn't have the pressure of, oh no, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? Because we had already done it. So all the pressure was off and we could absorb more of what was going on. I don't know if I like that or dislike that. It was definitely different though, because we got there Thursday night. We had our first meetings at like 9:30 in the morning on Friday, and we met with, and the really interesting part was this year, the two that I did in my small group, the receptionist had a blind member of her family, and the other one, the aide had worked for a legally blind person when they first started working up at the Capitol. So those two represented, well, one was the senator side, one was the representative side, but they had both had touches with blindness. And so I felt a lot easier to have those conversations in those offices because they were already aware of things that were going on in our community, even if it wasn't necessarily recent stuff for the one person, but that's how they learned what they were doing in DC was through a legally blind person. And so they
Yeah.
knew the importance of the technology because they had to be the eyes at some point for that individual. And then the other person, their family had adopted a child that was legally blind. And so they're like, oh, what resources are available to us? And just very interested in learning more about what things that they could look forward to and help their family progress with. So that was really interesting this year, that I don't think I've ever had that kind of connection with the actual offices in the past.
Yeah, maybe next year going forward, instead of asking for a volunteer, I can just call the office of my senator
And the
and
thing
ask
with
for
that
his.
is, I think it's better. You're probably better with having a volunteer when you first get into the building, and then when you're in the building or you're at the particular represented legislator's office, then seeing if the intern could get you to the next office is probably the best way to go around that kind of situation.
Okay.
But I don't know. This is the first time I've had any kind of guided tour. So it was fun though.
And Raheel, I am curious too, like as far as the legal assistants or the folks that you did speak with on Capitol Hill, did they seem pretty receptive, pretty engaging, with what you were telling
They
them?
seemed pretty engaging about that. And they said that they would let the person know.
Nice. So you kind of got the sense they weren't just like, yes, yes, they did have like questions even or seemed to
Yeah,
have
they
more than just
did.
a yes or
Yep.
no response. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's great to hear. Yep. And just mentioning one of my experiences too, I did do a couple of virtual visits with the Florida Council of the Blind and one of the legal assistants. I believe it was last year. I think he wasn't sure if it was ACB or NFB folks, but he did say that he tried the audio description feature on Netflix after that meeting just to test it out, kind of get a sense of it. Like you were saying,
Uh-huh.
Mo, just any kind of exposure or experience to the blind community, some of the technologies or tools that we use, having that knowledge or at least some exposure to that is just so, so important.
Right.
The one thing that we did learn from our last visit that none of the other particular individuals had mentioned was, and this was a senator's office, and um, she really emphasized the fact that right now, big legislation, especially the budget legislation, is really the only things moving right now at the Capitol. And so it's really hard for them to be able to back some of these smaller things because there's just no movement. And I think that was a really interesting thing. She's like, I will try my best to try and find a way that we could sneak some of these things into some of these other avenues so that maybe there can be a little more movement. But, getting the budget passed is such a big thing right now. And then getting the military spending was like the two things that she thought were really going to get passed this year. And it's really sad to think that only two things that are really going to make any traction this year are those two. I mean, very important legislation, don't get me wrong, but sad to see how many things get left behind just because so much energy goes to these other aspects.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's comes kind of in a way surprised, but glad that like she was so transparent
Blunt.
about that. Yeah.
Well,
Kind of a peek
when you're
behind the
meeting with the
curtain.
person that is the longest running senator in the legislative history,
That's
you
true.
learn some of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely unique perspective. Yep. All right. So before we wrap up, anything else you guys want to mention about the DC Leadership Conference and just in general your experience in DC?
There was Monday night trivia. I attended some of it, but then I had to go up and get ready for bed because I was kind of tired. And yeah, it was fun though.
Nice. Mo, anything else?
So my big piece of advice is don't be in such a big hurry to try and make all your things slide into place that you let the little things slide.
My advice is take your time. Don't, you know, don't wear new shoes while
That's a
you're
good one too.
traveling because it'll trust me, you don't want to go through what I had to go through because it'll hurt your foot, really.
And I guess going on that thought, something to keep in mind is prep yourself before you actually get to DC. Um, I plan to wear some open toe shoes, and because I knew that that isn't exactly seen as professional necessarily, but they are my really good walking shoes. And that's why I was going to wear them. I made sure that I went out and got nails done, both on my hands and my feet. So they match, they look clean. And that I looked ready to present when I got there and looked like this. I did this all on purpose. And I mean, I did. But just keep in mind that before you get there, is that there are things that you can definitely do to help you look presentable and not that you're wearing new shoes but look like you planned to be there and so you knew what you were doing. And I think that just helps your confidence level when you get there, and so that you're presenting better just because you know that you look put together and that people aren't looking down on you like, oh, that blind person doesn't know that they don't match or something to that effect.
And wear your suit like a button-down shirt and pants along with the coat that comes with it. Um, you don't have to wear a tie, because for some people, like ties are kind of hard to like tie. And also, if you're gonna wear a coat, I mean, those coats, I wonder, are they only dry clean or is it like, or can you just throw it in the laundry? Because my mom threw it in the laundry and stuff, and she said it came out clean and stuff.
It would depend, but another clothing tip is ACB. The mini mall is at the conference. Buy like one of their jackets. I bought that back in 2023, and I wear that jacket every time I go to the Capitol at DC, or I go to the Capitol here in my state, because I feel like I look very put together. I'm representing, even if I can't read that it says ACB on it, I know it says it there. And it's showing that to everybody else, is that I am there with this organization. And it doesn't have to be a fancy, fancy coat. but you can have something that says where you're from because they can read even if we can't read it.
Right. Because I can't really buy that because my family like says, no, don't. It's a waste of money and
Well,
all
I
that.
saved my money and I bought it myself.
But yeah, definitely great points about just being presentable, whether it's for this conference on Capitol Hill or just out and about, in our lives. I mean, we want to be taken seriously and want to be respected and, all those things. So great points. Excellent. All right. Well, again, we've been visiting with Raheel Ahmed as well as Mo Carpenter here on Next Up with Next Gen. So, guys, thanks so much for taking the time to do this.
Thanks for having us.
If you want to know more about ACB Next Generation and the work we're doing to empower the next generation of leaders in ACB, visit our website at acbnextgeneration.org.